My fingers trembled as I fixed my eyes on the screen. 3 missed calls from Gerald, my attorney. Then a message that drained the warmth from my veins. Tom, call me immediately. Do not go to your daughter's house. I'm serious. I had just slipped one arm into my coat, ready to head over to Lindsay's place in Springbank for our usual Sunday dinner. She'd been unusually persistent all week. Dad, you never visit anymore. The kids keep asking about you. I'm cooking your favorite pot roast. How was I supposed to refuse that? But Gerald's warning shifted everything. I lowered myself back onto the leather couch. Margaret and I had chosen 32 years earlier, when we first moved into this house in Mount Royal. If she were here, she'd know exactly how to handle this. She always did, yet she'd been gone for 4 years. And since then I'd been finding my way through life on my own. With unsteady hands, I called Gerald, Tom. His tone was controlled, professional, but beneath it I caught the strain. Where are you right now? Are you by yourself? I'm at home, Gerald. What's happening? You're starting to worry me. Good. Stay there. Lock every door. I'm on my way. We need to speak in person, and there are documents you have to see. 20 minutes later, he was seated across from me at the dining table, laying out papers between us as though we were examining evidence from a crime, which in a way we were. Tom, 3 days ago your daughter Lindsay and her husband Derek filed an application with the Court of Queen's Bench. He hesitated, studying me with that grave, measured look at lawyers perfectly over years. They're petitioning to have you declared mentally incompetent. They intend to assume legal guardianship and gain full control over your assets. The words struck like a punch to the chest. The room tilted, and I had to steady myself against the table. That's absurd. I'm 67, not 97. I volunteer at the food bank. I handle my own portfolio. I renewed my driver's license just last month without a single problem. My voice began to climb, edged with panic. Why would they do something like this? Gerald pushed another sheet across the table. Because of this, your home is currently valued at roughly $2.4 million. Your investment portfolio stands at about $1.8 million. Add in your pension and savings, and your total estate exceeds $5 million. I knew I was financially secure. Margaret and I had spent decades building that security, working tirelessly, saving with discipline, investing with care. I gave 35 years of my life to petroleum engineering before retiring. But hearing the numbers presented so bluntly, stripped of sentiment and laid out like a target, made my stomach turn. Lindsay knows the house has gone up in value, I said slowly. We discussed the Calgary market last Christmas. She laughed and said I was sitting on a gold mine. It wasn't laughter, Tom. Gerald flipped open his laptop and rotated it toward me. Take a look. On the screen was a detailed breakdown. Your daughter and Derek are under significant financial strain. They purchased that 5,000 square foot property in Springbank Hills 3 years ago with a $650,000 mortgage. Then Derek persuaded her to sink money into his partner's cryptocurrency startup. They lost $400,000. Josh's private school tuition is $38,000 annually. Their property taxes alone run $22,000 a year. I stared at the figures, my thoughts spinning. How do you even have access to this? It's included in their filing, Gerald replied evenly. They claim they must safeguard your assets from what they describe as your cognitive decline before you make reckless financial choices. And Tom, his expression shifted, almost sympathetic. They've been documenting this for at least 6 months. He scrolled through what they'd submitted as proof, photos of me at Safeway, supposedly looking bewildered in the cereal aisle, when in reality I'd just been searching for the brand Margaret used to buy. A note from their physician, Dr. Patel, mentioning I appeared slightly disoriented during a routine visit, the same appointment where I was battling a head cold and momentarily forgot which medication I'd already taken. A recorded call in which I couldn't recall my own phone number, because I'd accidentally given them the old one from before switching providers. Ordinary, harmless moments in an aging man's life had been reshaped into proof that I was losing my mind. This is fraud, I said quietly. My voice drained of strength. It's elder abuse. Yes, Gerald replied. It is. And sadly, Tom, it's happening more often. Adult children trying to secure control of their parents' estates before they've even passed. The courts are seeing a steady rise in cases like this. He shut his laptop with deliberate calm. The hearing is set for 2 weeks from now. They acted quickly, likely hoping you wouldn't have time to prepare. My throat tightened. What if they succeed? If the court rules in their favor, they'll be appointed your legal guardians. They'll gain authority over your bank accounts, your investments, your home. They could list the property for sale, place you in assisted living, make every medical decision on your behalf. You would lose your independence entirely. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. Given their financial pressure, I'd expect your house to be listed within 3 months. That house, the one where Margaret and I raised Lindsay, where Christmas dinners stretched late into the night and birthday candles were blown out year after year, where we planted roses in the backyard and argued about paint colors in the kitchen, where she lay upstairs in our bedroom, her hand in mine, the night she took her final breath. They can't do this, I murmured. Lindsay wouldn't do this. She's my daughter. Gerald's expression softened, but he didn't waver. I'm sorry, Tom. The documentation tells a different story. This has been methodical. They waited until after your minor car accident last year. They recorded every forgotten name, every missed appointment. They've been constructing a narrative. I remembered that crash clearly. I was driving home from the grocery store when a teenager sped through a red light and slammed into the side of my car. The police report made it clear I wasn't responsible, but suddenly everything else made sense. Why Lindsay had insisted on attending every medical appointment after that crash. Why she'd begun typing notes into her phone during our conversations. She hadn't been concerned. She'd been collecting evidence. What do I do now? I asked, feeling untethered. Hurt, furious, frightened, all at once. Gerald sat straighter, his demeanor shifting from compassion to calculation. We respond, and we do it intelligently. But Tom, you need to understand something first. This won't just be a court case. He held my gaze. It could fracture your family beyond repair. I pictured Lindsay as a child, climbing into my lap with a book in her hands, begging for one more story before bed. I remembered her at Margaret's funeral, clutching me as though I were the only solid thing left in her world. Just last week she'd said, "I love you, Dad." And now this. The strategy, the deception, the readiness to strip her own father of his dignity and freedom for financial gain. Tell me what we have to do, I said. Gerald gave a tight smile, not warm, not pleased, but resolute, the look of a lawyer preparing for battle. First, we document everything. Starting today, you'll keep a meticulous journal. Record your daily activities, every conversation, every rational decision you make. Include times, specifics, proof that your mind is sound. All right. Second, we arrange an evaluation with an independent psychiatrist, not your regular physician they may have influenced, but a geriatric mental health specialist, someone qualified to testify that you are cognitively intact. Understood. Third, and this is critical, you cannot let them suspect that you're aware of any of this. Act as you normally would. If they realize we're preparing a defense, they could speed up their efforts or eliminate damaging evidence. The dinner invitation suddenly felt sinister. They wanted me there tonight for a reason, didn't they? I'd wager they intended for you to sign something, possibly a power of attorney tucked between routine paperwork, framed as harmless financial planning. Or they may have orchestrated a situation, recorded you appearing confused to strengthen their case. The calculation of it all was staggering. How could she do this? My voice cracked, and before I could stop it, tears blurred my vision. 67 years old, undone by my own child. Gerald rested a steady hand on my shoulder. I've practiced law for 3 decades, Tom. I've witnessed this more times than I care to count. Money doesn't always corrupt. Sometimes it simply exposes. During the week that followed, I carried out Gerald's instructions precisely as he'd laid them out. I began recording everything with precision, from how long it took me to finish my morning crossword, to the exact hours I spent volunteering at the Calgary Food Bank. Every detail, every decision, every conversation went into that journal. I also met with Dr. Sarah Chen, a specialist in geriatric psychiatry, who subjected me to an extensive series of cognitive evaluations, memory recall, pattern recognition, executive reasoning, the full battery. After our third appointment, she folded her hands and looked at me steadily. Mr. Morrison, I can say with absolute professional certainty that you show no evidence of cognitive impairment, dementia, or diminished capacity. Your memory is strong, your analytical skills are intact, and your judgment is sound. Frankly, you outperform many individuals decades younger. The validation should have comforted me. Instead, the most difficult part of that week was acting as though none of this was happening. Lindsay called on Wednesday. "Dad, I'm so sorry about Sunday. Derek's mom fell, and we had to rush over there. Can we plan for this weekend instead?" "Of course, sweetheart," I replied, the word catching bitterly in my throat. "Is she all right?" "Oh, she's perfectly fine. You know how theatrical she gets." Lindsay laughed, that same familiar laugh I'd adored since she was a child. "Actually, Dad, while I've got you, Derek and I were thinking about helping you set up a trust. Just basic estate planning. Making sure everything's structured properly in case, well, you know, none of us are getting younger." "That sounds reasonable," I answered evenly. "Let me give it some thought." "Don't wait too long, Dad. These matters can be time-sensitive. You never know what could happen." Later that evening, my grandson Josh called. 15 years old. A good boy. At least I believed he was. "Grandpa Tom, can I come by? I need to talk to you. Just us." "Of course, Josh. Is something wrong?" I need to see you, please." He showed up 20 minutes later on his bike, cheeks flushed from pedaling hard. He looked terrified. "Grandpa, I have to show you something, but you can't tell Mom and Dad it came from me. Promise." A cold weight settled in my chest. "Josh, what is it?" With trembling fingers, he pulled out his phone. "I overheard them last week. They didn't realize I was home. I recorded it. I know I shouldn't have, but after what they said, you needed to hear it." He pressed play. Then Derek. "And if your dad pushes back?" "With what?" Lindsay replied sharply. "We've been methodical. Every lapse, every missed appointment, every time he appeared confused. It all builds a narrative. The judge will see cognitive decline. And even if he fights, it'll drain him financially. Legal fees alone could eat up hundreds of thousands. By the end of it, there won't be much estate left anyway." Derek's voice lowered. "And once it's done, when it's done," she corrected, "the house goes up for sale immediately. Even in this market, we should net around $1.8 million after clearing the mortgage. That wipes out the crypto losses and puts us back to zero. Then we liquidate his investments, clear our own mortgage, and establish a proper education fund for Josh." A beat of silence followed. "And your dad?" Derek asked. "Where does he go?" The recording ended. Josh was crying quietly now, tears sliding down his flushed cheeks. "Grandpa, I'm so sorry. I didn't know what else to do. I love you. And they're talking about you like you're already gone, like you're not even a person." I pulled him into my arms, holding him tight. This 15-year-old boy had risked his parents' trust to protect me. "You did exactly what you should have, Josh," I whispered. "You did exactly what you were supposed to do." Josh's voice wavered. "Are they really going to take your house? The one you and Grandma lived in?" "Not if I have anything to say about it, buddy. Not if I have anything to say about it." The moment he left, I phoned Gerald. He listened to the recording without interrupting. When it ended, there was a long stretch of silence on the line. "Tom," he said finally, his voice measured, "this changes everything. This is explicit evidence of fraud and elder abuse. With this, we don't just defend against their application." He paused. "We go on the attack." "What does that mean?" "It means we file a counterclaim. Fraud, attempted financial exploitation of a vulnerable individual, conspiracy to commit theft, and Tom, we ensure every justice in the Court of Queen's Bench understands precisely what your daughter attempted." Presiding over the matter was Maria Rodriguez, a woman in her 50s with steel-gray hair, and an expression that suggested very little surprised her anymore. Lindsay's lawyer opened the proceedings. He laid out their evidence methodically. The photographs, Dr. Patel's notes, the carefully compiled timeline of what they characterized as my decline. He framed it as a heartbreaking scenario, a devoted daughter attempting to shield her aging father from his own failing faculties. Then Gerald rose. Your Honor, I would first like to submit the psychiatric evaluation conducted last week by Dr. Sarah Chen. He handed the report forward. Dr. Chen found absolutely no signs of cognitive impairment. On the contrary, Mr. Morrison performed above average for his demographic in every tested category of mental capacity. The judge reviewed the document with deliberate care. The incident at Safeway, Gerald continued calmly. Mr. Morrison was searching for a particular cereal brand his late wife used to purchase. The so-called disorientation at Dr. Patel's office? He was battling influenza with a documented fever of 101 degrees. The incorrect phone number? He had recently switched service providers and was still memorizing the new one. Piece by piece, he unraveled their narrative until it looked exactly like what it was. Ordinary life, distorted. But most importantly, Your Honor, Gerald said, his tone sharpening, we have direct evidence revealing the true intent behind this application. He pressed play. In the stillness of the courtroom, Lindsay and Derek's voices carried clearly detached, strategic, transactional. The house goes on the market immediately. Liquidate his investment portfolio. He won't even know the difference soon enough. Each sentence seemed to settle heavily in the room. I watched as Justice Rodriguez's expression shifted, her features tightening with every passing word. When the recording ended, Gerald stepped forward. Your Honor, this is not the conduct of a devoted daughter safeguarding her father. This is a calculated scheme for financial exploitation. He paused deliberately. Miss Morrison Fletcher and her husband are facing significant financial strain following reckless investments. By securing guardianship, they would gain control of an estate valued at over $5 million. They have selectively presented medical information, staged photographs, and constructed a misleading narrative, all in pursuit of personal financial recovery at their father's expense. Lindsay's attorney sprang to his feet. Your Honor, this audio was recorded without my client's knowledge or permission. It should be deemed inadmissible. In a criminal matter, perhaps. Justice Rodriguez interjected firmly. However, this is a civil guardianship proceeding. The motivations behind the petition are highly relevant. She turned her gaze directly to Lindsay. Miss Morrison Fletcher, would you care to clarify why you and your husband are discussing the immediate sale of your father's home and liquidation of his assets while he sits here today? Demonstrably competent, Lindsay parted her lips, but nothing emerged at first. Your Honor, she said at last, her voice unsteady. That conversation has been taken out of context. We were speaking hypothetically. It was simply estate planning. Hypothetical estate planning, the judge repeated evenly. That includes relocating your father to a lovely assisted living facility in Airdrie, while you clear nearly $2 million from the sale of his home. Her tone never rose, but it carried unmistakable steel. Miss Morrison Fletcher, I have served on this bench for 18 years. I recognize financial elder abuse when it stands in front of me. Justice Rodriguez reviewed the documents before her in silence, then lifted her gaze to Lindsay and Derek. This petition is dismissed with prejudice, meaning it may not be brought before this court again. In addition, I am issuing a restraining order. Miss Morrison Fletcher and Mr. Fletcher are prohibited from contacting Mr. Morrison or coming within 100 meters of his residence for a period of no less than 2 years. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. I am also referring this matter to the Alberta Crown Prosecution Service for consideration of criminal charges, including fraud and elder abuse. Then she looked at me, and some of the hardness left her expression. Mr. Morrison, I am profoundly sorry for what you have endured. No parent should face what you have faced here today. All legal costs incurred in your defense are to be paid by the petitioners. I strongly advise that you review and revise your estate planning to guard against any future attempts of this nature. Lindsay had begun to cry, but there was no repentance in it, only shock and fury at consequences she hadn't anticipated. Dad, please, she called as the session adjourned. Dad, you have to listen. I turned toward her one final time. The woman standing there barely resembled the child I had once steadied on a bicycle, the bride I had walked down the aisle, the daughter I believed I understood. I understand completely, Lindsay, I said quietly. I understand that you were prepared to ruin me for money. I understand that you stopped seeing your father and started seeing an asset to be liquidated. And I understand that your mother, the one you claim to love so fiercely, would be heartbroken by the person you've chosen to become. Josh's fingers tightened around mine. My grandson, the one who had found the strength to stand up for what was right, even knowing it would cost him his parents' trust. Grandpa, can we go home now? Yes, Josh, I said gently. Let's go home. As we stepped out of the courthouse, Gerald kept pace beside me. Tom, that couldn't have been easy. How are you holding up? I exhaled slowly. Truthfully, I'm not sure. I glanced down at Josh walking next to me. But I do know this. Blood doesn't always define family, and family isn't always defined by blood. Today I lost a daughter, but I also learned that I managed to raise at least one person who understands integrity. That evening, back in my house in Mount Royal, the home Margaret and I had filled with decades of memories, I made one more call to Gerald. I need to revise my will, I told him. The house, the investments, all of it. I want a trust established for Josh, for his education, for his future. Lindsay receives nothing, not a single dollar. She made her decision. There was a pause. Are you certain, Tom? That's final. I'm certain. And I want the document to state clearly why. I want it detailed, everything she attempted. If she ever challenges it, the record will speak for itself. I'll take care of it, Gerald said. A week later, Josh moved in with me. When his parents discovered he had recorded them, they told him to leave. 15 years old, and they chose money over their own child. But I had more than enough room, and more than enough love, and Josh deserved someone who would put him first. We built a new rhythm together. Breakfast at the kitchen table before school, homework spread across the dining room each evening, weekends driving out to the mountains, breathing in air that felt clean and honest. In the backyard, Josh helped me tend the soil, planting vegetables where Margaret once nurtured her roses. One Saturday morning, as we knelt side by side pulling weeds, he spoke quietly. Grandpa, do you ever forgive her? I mean, Mom. I sat back, resting on my heels, and thought about it. Forgiveness isn't really about the other person, Josh. It's about refusing to let what they did take over the rest of your life. Do I forgive what your mother tried to do? No. And I doubt we'll ever have a relationship again. But I won't let bitterness define whatever time I have left. There's still too much life ahead of me. I nudged him lightly, and now I've got a partner to share it with. 6 months later, we stood together in the garden, facing a newly placed plaque, Margaret's name etched in bronze, her years beneath it, and a line we had chosen together. Words that felt like both an ending and a beginning. Family isn't always defined by blood. It's the ones who remain beside you when everyone else turns their back. Josh traced the edge of the plaque with his fingers. Do you think Grandma would have liked it? I smiled. I think she would have loved it, and I know she would be incredibly proud of you. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was Gerald. Tom, I wanted you to hear this directly. The Crown has decided to proceed. Lindsay and Derek have pleaded guilty to attempted fraud. They received suspended sentences and 2 years probation. It's officially on their record. He paused. It's over. They can't undo this. Your estate is protected. Your independence is intact. You can move forward without looking over your shoulder. I watched Josh carefully watering the rows of vegetables we'd planted side by side. The boy who had shielded me, and whom I now had the chance to protect in return. Thank you, Gerald, I said quietly, for everything. That evening, Josh worked through algebra problems at the dining table while I read across from him, and it struck me how close I had come to losing what truly mattered. Lindsay had tried to strip away my home, my savings, my dignity, my freedom, but in doing so she revealed what held real value. It wasn't the house worth $2.4 million, though I was grateful to still walk its halls. It wasn't the investment accounts or the carefully built portfolio. It was the boy across from me, chewing on his pencil as he puzzled through equations. Family isn't an obligation. It isn't inheritance. It's presence. It's loyalty when everything fractures. It's a 15-year-old choosing integrity over comfort. It's second chances built from the wreckage of betrayal. Margaret used to say that when there's something significant at stake, people reveal who they truly are. Lindsay showed me she was willing to trade her father for financial relief. Josh showed me that courage can live in the youngest heart, even when it comes at a cost. At 67, I've learned more in these past 6 months than in all the decades before. I've learned that trust must be earned, that sometimes the ones who profess love most loudly are capable of the deepest wounds, that love isn't measured in promises, it's proven in actions taken when no one is watching. Most of all, I've learned that defending yourself is not cruelty, it's survival. Vulnerability isn't weakness. Asking for help is strength. Refusing to be exploited is not revenge, it's dignity. And if you're facing something similar, if someone close to you is trying to label you incompetent, to seize control of your life, to take what you built, stand your ground, seek counsel, keep records, listen to your instincts. Your worth is not defined by your bank balance. Your value doesn't diminish with age. You are not irrational. You are not imagining it. If someone is systematically attempting to undermine your competence, it's not because they're protecting you. It's because they want something from you, not for you. And if you're an adult child reading this, understand something clearly: your inheritance is not yours until it is legally and willingly given to you. Your parents do not owe you their home, their savings, or the wealth they spent a lifetime building. They earned it. They decide what becomes of it. If you try to secure it through pressure, manipulation, or legal maneuvering, you might gain the money, but you will lose something far more important. You will lose your integrity. Lindsay spent 1.5 years planning, countless hours manipulating. She stood to gain hundreds of thousands, maybe more. What did it cost her? Her father, her son, her reputation, her self-respect. Was it worth it? You'd have to ask her, but I imagine that in her quietest moments, she already knows the answer. As for me, I have a grandson to raise, vegetables to tend, and more life ahead of me than regrets behind me. The house in Mount Royal isn't just a multi-million-dollar property anymore. It's home. It's where Josh is learning what integrity looks like. It's where Margaret's memory lives in every hallway and every sunlit room. It's where justice drew a line. It's where family was redefined, and that is worth more than all the money in the world. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing to A Father's Wrath and turning on the notification bell. Every week, we share powerful true stories about family, betrayal, accountability, and the strength it takes to stand your ground. Leave a comment below. Have you ever had to protect your peace or your property from someone you never expected? Your story could help someone else who feels alone right now. Thank you for reading. Protect your boundaries, protect your integrity, and never forget, you are worth more than what anyone can take from you.